All political camps are currently in a race to tap into the Kenyan youthful voter mass ahead of the 2027 elections. And today we want to put before the mirror statements that were made yesterday in one such meeting that was putting in the spot both the leaders of a political party and the Gen Zs and the millennials within a political party that seeks political position. This is the People's Mirror. We are an affiliate channel of the Civic Lens KE, the reporting channel of the Civic Lens KE, and so we'd appreciate if you're joining our channel for the first time, if you also subscribed on this one to aid our growth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to your memory how different particular political parties have previously tried to tap into the youth voter mass, but what I want to put before the mirror today, before we proceed, is the statements that were made by Regarda yesterday in the DCP meeting that was held between the millennials and the youths within the DCP party and the DCP leadership. But before we come to that, let us just first put our memory back in check on how politicians and political camps have tried to tap into this particular voter mass ahead of the 2027 elections. Sometimes back, the ODM party called for a national dialogue. This particular dialogue was to have in attendance both the youth and the elderly members of the society. Now, what turned out is that the dialogue was never had to fruition, but whatever was had was a conversation between the youth and the Secretary General of the party and certain leaderships of the party. ODM then became the first party after the demonstrations that we witnessed both in 2024 and 2025 to have a conversation with the youth. Wiper followed shortly after. Wiper Democratic Party, that was formerly known then, has now since changed its name to Wiper Patriotic Front. The main reason for this move is to put in consideration and to welcome the young patriotic fans and the young patriotic citizens who fought in the 2024-2025 demonstrations for change. So as a party, they have moved ahead to even change their names so that they can create space for the Gen Zs within their structures. And then there is the ruling party right now, the UDA party. The UDA party tried some empowerments previously at State House that was aimed at the youth, but then it was argued by certain critics that that particular meeting only targeted the youth from the Nairobi area. So we are yet to see what the UDA government will do to tap up the youth population beyond the Nairobi region. But we know right now that most analysis point that the UDA government, after securing a good support from the previous dynasties that the UDA party leader was against in the 2022 elections, and now after joining the dynasty wing, the only place that they have remaining is to tap into the Mount Kenya vote or to tap into the youthful vote. So maybe ahead of 2027, we are yet to see what the ruling party will do to tap into that particular voter mass. So the list could be endless on how different political parties have tried within their own capacities to include the youth, because they have understood that the youth will matter in the 2027 elections. If you take a keen look of different political parties in Kenya right now, you'd realize that certain positions of power like Secretary General or Assistant Secretary General positions go to the youthful populations. And in that catch, a friend of mine actually is currently the Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party and was even given platform to speak to the youth in the book launch of Justin Muturi. So actually giving these particular platforms to the youth is really commendable within the political party's space, because then it gives the youth an opportunity to flourish politically with the backing of political parties. Now, that much said, yesterday, the Democracy for Citizens Party, which is a new party from the mountain region, was holding a meeting between the Democracy for Citizens Party leadership and the youth, being the Gen Zs and the millennials within the party. And so certain statements were made by the party leader that is worthy of being put before the mirror so that we can see from the reflection that will come in the mirror the effects of these statements ahead of 2027. And the first of its kind was the statement that Regarda made, saying that at one point when the Gen Zs was being butchered in the streets as a result of the orders of the president, he had to hold a different press conference in Mombasa to actually say that that butchering was wrong.
And kill them.
So you see,
I was unable to be part of that government. And I made a very serious decision on the 26th of June 2024. I flew to Mombasa and held a parallel press conference with William Ruto. When he was calling our young people criminals, I call them my sons and daughters. Many people try to stop me from having that press conference. Oh, you cannot speak when the president has spoken. But I say the president is behaving like an animal. I am not an animal myself, I'm a human being. And I must dissociate myself from his utterances. These are young people who are fighting for their country and for the right thing. And he is calling them criminals. And they are not criminals because what they were disagreeing with is what is criminal in nature. And I therefore affirmed our young people, and I said I want to be counted, that these are our young people, they are my sons and daughters, and they must be given a chance. And that's when I disagreed with William Ruto. After that day, until he threw me out of office, we never spoke again. He would just pretend to greet me in public, but he could not agree to face me, because I would look at him at his face and ask him, why are you killing young people?
Was wrong. So you see, from a political point of view, this statement taps into the cause of the Gen Zs and the millennials. And so Regarda Gachagua is trying to remind them that before we talk of everything else, I resonate with you from the point of the beginning of your course. Because at that time, when now you are on the streets and you are calling for change, I stood with you and I made statements to your advantage. Really, why the Gen Zs went on the streets at that time was to oust the Ruto government entirely, including Regarda Gachagua. And so when Regarda Gachagua made that speech, then it was made just in the middle of everything else that was happening. We did not know that it was made later to be used as a political tool now, when now Regarda has jumped the ship or has been ousted by the government, and the government is standing in isolation. But that being as it may, Regarda was showing the Gen Zs and the millennials within his party that the only point that made him actually detach from the Kasongo government, as he calls President Ruto, was the point of disagreeing on the butchering of the Gen Zs on the streets. And so if you are young, you're a millennial or you're a Gen Z in the Regarda camp, then this resonates with you from a point of, okay, at the point that as we were being butchered on the streets and the Gen Zs were actually demonstrating on the streets, this man made a statement to stand with us. I don't know how deep that penetrated within his support backyard, but he made that statement very categorically and very calculatively to remind the millennials and the Gen Zs that at that point, when they were being murdered in the streets, he stood with them. Then he made another statement. He said that he was positioning his party to be the home of the young population. Now you see, for quite some time Regarda has been campaigning on the backyard that when he's appointed as the president, or when he's elected, is appointed as the flag bearer within the united opposition, but when he's elected as president of the Republic of Kenya, then he will ensure that in a particular ministry, while a CS would be from the elderly members of the citizenry, the PS would come from the youth. Now I don't know much how the cabinet runs, just like most of us, but Gachagua might have an idea of it. What I know for a fact is that within the structure of a cabinet ministry as it stands right now, the principal secretary has a lot of administrative duties compared to the CS himself. And so Regarda Gachagua is saying that when that time comes and his government is formed, whichever day that will happen, and his government is formed, he will ensure that while the CS is elderly, the major work in the ministry goes to a 24-year-old youth. So this was also a statement that he was making, not for the first time, but he made again in this meeting, portraying to this particular youthful population that if they elect him, or if the DCP gets to form government, then the positions in the ministries will be divided between the youth and the elderly so that government can thrive. we hope to see how that works. And first, even we hope to see DCP forming government. But if it ever forms government, we hope to see a system where there is power sharing between the young and the elderly, bringing in both a freshness and experience to thrive different ministries. Then there was the aspects of asking Gen Zs to take up positions in government. Now, this was very categorical when he said it, and it tapped into a lot of people's mindsets. And what he was saying essentially was this. He was saying that there is no point of fighting for a government and not being in it. And for this reason, he called upon the Gen Zs and the millennials to actually take MCA positions, Member of Parliament positions, Senate positions, and all these other positions in the 2027 election. So you see, this is playing out very rightly, because with Gachagua requesting people to take up these positions in the 2027 elections, it's just following a script of what is already imminent, that the 2027 election is going to be infiltrated with the young population seeking political positions in both the county levels and in the national levels. And for his party, he has done something commendable. He's saying now his party, the DCP party, will waive nomination fees upon the youths who will have proven that they are committed to the DCP party through enrolling new members to the party. So if you are enrolling new members to the party right now and you are a member of the DCP party, your party leader is giving you a green light that that's okay. Come 2027, you will not have to pay the normal nomination fee to vie using the DCP party in whatever position that you will vie in. And this is an incentive now for a lot of youths to actually walk into the political scene and vie, knowing very well that if they prove loyalty for the DCP party right now, then they will not have to pay the nomination fee. It also works in favor of the DCP party, that now a lot of youths will opt to it as the party to use as a vehicle in the 2027 elections, now that they have waived the aspect of paying the fee, being the nomination fee in these elections. So he has said to separate who is really serious from who is not serious. He has left that duty to the Secretary General of the party to decide on how they will arrive at who will be given the nomination ticket, now that the prize will have been waived. Now, Regarda did not forget the youth population that's already working, and for that he said that other than the Gen Zs and the millennials who are in this journey, also the people holding the pay slip are another group that he's targeting. And he's saying the DCP party now is a home of the young people. If you want to get your political journey starting, he's welcoming you to the DCP party with incentives like you will not have to pay nomination fee when you are vying using the DCP party ticket in the 2027 election. So we are yet to see an upsurge of the young people going to the DCP party, maybe between now and 2027, and trying to prove their loyalty through of course enrolling new people, which will work in favor of the DCP party. And now in the 2027 elections, vying without paying the nomination fee and even securing seats if they become successful, that will eventually turn to the DCP party. So DCP party currently is the first party in Kenya that has done that ahead of the 2027 elections, to give room to the youthful people to also start or jumpstart their political careers. And that is one thing that is commendable from that speech that was made. So eyes are on the youths who are interested in joining politics, the Gen Zs and the millennials combined, who wants to secure those particular positions, on whether or not they will take the offer that was extended by the DCP party leader in that speech yesterday. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the reflection of the statements of Rigathi Gachagua before the People's Mirror.